said the microphones, and mine's not on. We're going to call this meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This is a regular meeting of the Jackson Township Board of Adjustment. Notice of this meeting was duly posted on the bulletin board in the municipal clerk's office and advertised in the official newspaper of the Township of Jackson on or before January 1st, 2025, as required by the Open Public Meetings Act.
Thank you, thank you. Okay, roll call, please, Kathleen.
Mr. Hyman.
Here.
Ms. Rosal.
Here.
Mr. Tremor. Ms. Cusano.
Here.
Mr. Seleckia.
Here.
Dr. Hofstein.
Here.
Ms. Bradley.
Here. We do not have any resolutions this evening. I do have minutes that we need a motion and a second from the meeting on the 5th of November. If I could have a motion and a second to approve the minutes, please.
Motion to approve. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Mr. Hyman.
Yes.
Ms. Rosal.
Yes.
Mr. Tremor. Ms. Cusano. Mr. Seleckia.
Yes.
Dr. Hofstein.
Yes.
Ms. Bradley.
Yes. Ms. LeBeau, do we have any announcements this evening from your side?
No announcements from us.
All right. The only announcement we have, Mr. Martins is not here this evening as he had to be recused from this application. And now we can swear in our professionals.
Okay. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give before this board is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
You want to introduce
Sure.
yourself for the record?
Matthew Wilder, filling in for Mark Romeyer, Board Engineer.
Ernie Peters, Board Planner.
Okay. Due to a family emergency, we are without the zoning officer this evening. All right. I do not believe we have any matters for discussion or any administrative approvals. Before we get started, if everybody could just double check your microphones. Let me remind the public, the acoustics in here stink. So if at any time you are speaking, please speak clearly into the microphone, and we will try to remember to do the same thing. So we're going to move forward. Applicant Ave Partners LLC, preliminary and final site plan 918 with use variance 3497. The applicant themselves has completed their application, so we're going to call up the objector, Mr. Paul Revere. Before you get started, Mr. Revere, forgive me. Leave it to me, Kathleen. We do have one voucher this evening. I apologize. We do have one voucher this evening for the recording secretary. I am going to need a motion and a second to pay the $175 voucher.
Motion.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Hyman.
Yes.
Ms. Rosal.
Yes.
Mr. Tremor.
Yes.
Ms. Cusano.
Yes.
Mr. Seleckia.
Yes.
Dr. Hofstein.
Yes.
Ms. Bradley.
Yes. I apologize, Mr. Revere. Please come forward.
Okay, we're up in age, and
I'm sorry?
I said, we're up in age, and we're going to be here for about an hour. Can we sit down at the table?
If there's a microphone, then that's fine. Yeah, if you're more comfortable.
Yeah, there
and
you go,
we
Mr.
can use that
Payton.
Okay,
microphone.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, Mr. Revere, you're going to be testifying? And who do you have with you? You just need. Are you going to be testifying? Okay, so just Mr. Revere, could you just raise your. Can you hear me now? I just need to get closer. Okay. I'm LeBeau, Robin LeBeau. Okay. Can
Okay.
you just raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give before this board is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Just please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Paul, last name is Revere. I live on West Commodore Road Boulevard in Jackson, New Jersey.
Thank you. Are you going to be saying anything, Mr. Revere?
Yes.
Maybe.
You want
Maybe.
me to-
Okay, so just, if you just raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give before this board is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Just please state your name for the record.
Bonnie Revere,
Okay, thank you.
1009 West Commodore Boulevard, Jackson, New Jersey.
Thank you.
Okay, there was one issue before we get started, I wanted to address.
Just remember to hold the microphone.
Yeah, okay, I will. I might forget from time to time. But the issue is, last time we were here, we were given the opportunity to make our objective presentation, and we were concerned that many of the people on the planning board would not be here if there would be a next meeting. Could you let me finish, please? All right? And it did happen. I'm glad we did not do our objective presentation, because most of the people up here would have not heard it. All right, so I still have the same concern. Now, is Mr. Pape going to commit to calling for a vote? Because I don't want him to say, okay, I'm going to make my presentation, but we can't have a vote tonight.
Okay, so let me just clarify something for the record. You indicated the planning board. This is the zoning board of adjustment.
I'm sorry, zoning
No, that's
board.
okay. I'm just
Okay.
clarifying for the record. Number two, it's not up to Mr. Pape to call for a vote. He's already presented his application. You're here as the objector. You have every right to present your case. And then if there's public session, we will be opening it once you're complete, and then the board will discuss and take the matter into consideration.
All right, so just to make it clear, I'm making my objective presentation, and then Mr. Pape is going to do his concluding presentation before the board. And I'm concerned that there'll be a call for a vote. The last time, he would not commit to calling for a vote. And that's why we decided to choose another day.
I'm not sure no, he wasn't going to call for a vote that evening because we were short. We have a full board of 7 this evening. So again, you will present your objector testimony. We will open it to the public. Mr. Pape will make his closing statement, and then it'll be up to the board for discussion.
Well, there were 5 people at the last
That's
meeting.
not a full board.
Right.
There's a full board of 7, and as an applicant, Ms. LeBou can tell you, as an applicant's attorney, they have the right
All
to have a
right,
full
well,
board for
I
a
just
vote.
don't want to, because the board has substantially changed since the last meeting.
It's just
I-
that for a D variance, he needs to have a vote of at least 5 members of the governing body. So when we're short, we leave it up to the applicant to say he would like to have a full board in order to have that. Since tonight
Okay.
we have a full board, so we'll be able to proceed to a vote.
Okay, I'll start my objector presentation. I'm sorry, sir, what was your name? What, Pat? No, I'm saying the person operating the screen.
Anthony,
Anthony?
Yes.
Oh, Anthony, can you put up the PowerPoint that I sent you? Okay, now, this is my presentation, and I have some other items we'll look at, but this is basically my objector presentation. This is the type of equipment that you see in an excavation company. Next slide, please. Now, for about a year, the applicant was illegally using the lot next to me as a construction yard. I had to send the code enforcement out there to get them to remove it. Next slide, please. I guess he went. Okay. Okay, now here's a picture of the dump trucks dumping fill, even though they had those excavation machines there. Next slide, please. Now, I want to show you the aerial view. Over here is all kinds of, that R3 is wrong. But over here, there's, oh, thank you. You know, you got a better one, huh? Okay. over here are all beautiful R2 homes, okay? And this is the home that is basically across the street. Now, all this is wetlands, and also across the street is all wetlands, okay? They can't be touched. Next, all right, you know, in industrial tandem trucks, repairing tandem trucks and excavation equipment is an industrial use. The office space is almost ancillary to the construction yard. Next slide, please. Hold on, I gotta start looking at my notes now. We're going to make a strong case that the applicant is not entitled to a Class D variance. The industrial repair garage cannot meet the Class D variance requirements. The industrial use excavation yard is not 4,000 square foot industrial repair garage is not ancillary to a garage to an office that was intended by the zoning regulations. Next slide, please. This site is a major change in use that is not compatible with the beautiful homes all around it. The site plan is against the Jackson Township master plan. The industrial use will harm the surrounding area, and it will promote an undesirable visual environment. This industrial excavation yard is of no benefit to the local residents and will only be a perpetual problem. Next, please. We'll talk about the negative problems that will show you that a Class D can't be approved. That's that we had quite a few people come here over the year, and they all testified to this. They get worn out with so many meetings. But we had about 10 people testifying. There's those big tandem trucks, they create noise levels, the daily operation of heavy machinery, trucks, maintenance activities can generate tremendous noise. Vibrations, big heavy trucks can actually shake the ground. Diesel fuel being burnt into the air by emissions. And then I'll show you the traffic safety concerns. The aesthetic value, if you care about Jackson, when you're driving down 571 and you're new, and the first thing you're going to see is an industrial yard. It's meant to be a highway commercial with a nice retail office. It's going to have a negative property impact on all of the houses around it. Now, once you put industrial in an area, it spreads like cancer. The next property wants industrial, and the next property wants industrial. I will show you that the applicant cannot demonstrate that variance promotes the general welfare as required by the New Jersey land use law. Specifically, the applicant has failed to show that the variance would advance any purpose of zoning, such as providing adequate light, air, open space, or promoting a desirable environment. And I'm going to show you that the applicant cannot prove that there's no negative criteria as a result of this negative impact as a result of this variance. Now here, next, please. I'm sorry, I'll just say next. Okay, next. Next. Now, this is what should be done. It's an example of how you deny a D variance. You got to show that, number one, the positive impact, there is no positive impact that would overweigh any reason not to overweigh any reason to grant us a C Class D variance. The law says that it just can't be a little thing. It has to be an enhanced positive impact. It has to be substantial in order to grant a Class D variance. So I'm hoping one of you will be able to read this into or make a motion for this. Okay, now the application, it should never have been deemed complete. The first problem was the application does not have a statement of operations. Okay, a statement of operation is a detailed plan, provides employee information, traffic and trucking activity, potential off-site impacts, site maintenance and waste disposal, compliance with regulations, and a listing of all the permits required having jurisdiction, and an environmental impact. This is required by your town. If you look at the statement of operations, it's 3 or 4 lines. That's it. It's not complete, and it hasn't been professionally prepared. Okay, go ahead, I'm sorry. I'm going faster than you. Now, this is the kind of thing that would be good for a highway commercial, and that would serve the people in the area. An excavation repair yard is not going to serve anybody in Jackson Township. So about maybe 18 years ago, a retail site was approved, and that had coffee shops and bank and thing like that, but it never broke ground. It was abandoned. And it was abandoned because I think the previous owner had some other problems. Now, in order to, now this property is in what is called a conservation, preservation, what is it called? Conservation, hold on. Conservation, preservation overlay zone. Hold on. I'm having a senior moment on exactly what it's called. Hold on. I'll be right there. Okay, it's called a conservation zone overlay. The purpose of this, they put this in place in parts of Jackson because they knew that the property in that area needed special protection. Okay, it's ordinance, go ahead. Next slide, please. Okay, and can we go to the next slide, please? Okay, now this ordinance specifically says that any property in a conservation zone overlay has special requirements, okay, that other areas of the town do not have. The most important part is that, well, the one that applies here is C1A. It says all applications for major site plan or major subdivision approval shall be required to submit a New Jersey DEP letter of interpretation or permit which identifies all freshland, wetlands, buffered transition areas on the property or properties included in the application before the application can be deemed complete. This is law. Now, Mr. Peters also has this in his planning report. Now, where are we now? Yeah. As of today, the applicant has not submitted any applications to New Jersey DEP. None. I checked last week, and none, zero. Now, it's been a year and a half, and they know they need it, and they know they should have had it, but they haven't even gone to make an application. That kind of flies in the face of what is required here in Jackson. Now, at first, the applicant basically relied on a conservation easement squiggly on the map. And that was relied on by all his experts, especially the planner. But I have a letter here, which I have a copy. Everybody can get a copy. It's an email. If anybody wants a copy of this email, I'll be glad to give it to you. But it was when I first investigated if there was even an application. And in the first email was July 10th, 2024. And basically, I can give you this email, and you can read it for yourself. They checked into the application permit status of blocks 2901, slots 7, 9, and 10. They said there was none. There were no applications. They said that there was an application back in 2006, and I'm just paraphrasing. You guys can take a copy of the email yourself. And they said it's all expired. It's null and void. And specifically, they say that, I'll read you one sentence. Additionally, there were several wetlands permits and hazard area permits that applied for in 2010 were improved in association with the construction of a retail center, not an industrial repair area. And a deed restriction for a conservation easement was to be placed on site as addition of this condition of this permit. However, it appears the project never took place, and therefore the deed restriction was not filed. So that means they're presenting to you a conservation easement that has not been recognized by the New Jersey DEP. And I want to tell you, I've had properties and I've provided a conservation easement on my own privately. It doesn't mean it's good, for the property, but it doesn't mean anything when it comes to New Jersey DEP. So what we've been talking about here is an imaginary conservation easement line. Now, in the many hearings that I've attended, I tried to pin the applicant down. Hey, did you submit an LOI or not? I asked the engineer point blank, did you submit an LOI? And he basically said yes. And I was blocked from following it up. They said, oh, you're not supposed to ask those questions. I was blocked. So his testimony was not factually correct. And it was misleading. As I said, I checked with last week, is there any applications done? And it's the zero, and the question is zero, none. So I don't understand. I think that's a question maybe you can ask the applicant and get a straight answer. Okay, so the township, either by mistake or whatever, illegally deemed this application complete. It does not meet the law. I think I had the first engineer, I don't remember his name, Evan, take me out to the parking lot and say, oh, everything's fine, you know, and it turned out it was a total farce. Okay, now where are we now? Next one, please. Next. All right, that's the, I think, the law that we just discussed. Now, the notice that the applicant provided all the neighbors was defective. Okay, he provided the first one. It's by law that when you notice your neighbors, you got to state that it's a conservation zone overlay. You got to put that right in the notice so people can understand what's going on. So the first notice was defective, and the second notice that we just received also did not state that this application is in a conservation zone overlay. Next, please. Now we're talking about the testimony. The testimony was that there was only going to be one truck a day coming into this property, one truck. As there was no statement of operations, this was the testimony. This is what the traffic engineer based his traffic report on. Later on, I got the traffic engineer to, all of a sudden, he raised it to 2 to 3 trucks. But we really don't know how many trucks because there's no statement of operation. Now, this site, if it changes hands, can turn into all kinds of industrial things. And it's in your purview to look at the future complications. Next slide. Okay, next, please. The traffic report did not consider any repair parts, any other sort support delivery trucks. What type of the traffic report did not list the type of equipment that would be going in there. It was a total blank. All we got was a verbal, oh, it's going to be one tandem truck a day. So that's another problem with the statement of operations. So this is discussed, but the traffic report wasn't valid was not based on valid information. Okay, now the traffic report does not show how the 90-degree turning path for a 60-foot tractor trailer towing a excavator or tandem truck can happen. Route 571 is 32 feet wide, and with the opposite of the site is total wetlands. You're not going to get a permit to widen the road there. All right, so it's a very narrow and it's a very heavily traveled road. Next. Okay, now where's that great one? This is a shot of the applicant's driveway, and you can see there's a guardrail all along here, and across the street is wetlands. You know, this whole place should have been zoned something else from highway commercial because it's 95% wetlands. All right. Now, Tony, can you go into the video? Okay, you can see the excavation equipment was there. They're bringing in or bringing out some excavation equipment. This is a front loader. And you can see he almost has to touch the rail to get out of that property. Okay? I want to also at this time say that they've been talking about, to the county planning board about the traffic, situation. And I don't know how they can see that, because when I checked, their application for the county planning board has been deemed incomplete, and they will not talk to the applicant until he submits a LOI and all the NJDEP requirements. So all this positivity about talking to the planning board, all I saw and who I talked to said, no, this is incomplete. We don't even talk to them until they make it complete. So one more time, sir, so we can show everybody what it looks like. And he's making a right turn. And he's also starting out as a 45 degree, not a 90, okay? A 45 degree. Now this road is full of school buses. It's bumper to bumper, commuter traffic in the morning and the evening. It's backed up all the way up to that telephone pole sometimes, and so it's a hazard. And the planning board can say, "Oh, that's not our purview; it's county," but you can't. The zoning board has to consider all the negative effects here and potential traffic off-site. Thank you, Tony. All right, go ahead, Tony. Okay, next one. Okay, next one. We just saw, this is from my traffic engineer who couldn't be here, gave me this information on it's basically almost impossible for these big rigs with their tandem trucks to not use both lanes of that road. Next slide, please. And here it is once again. The radius is almost bigger than the road. Next slide, please. Okay, next slide. Now, once again, the traffic engineer did not have a list of the equipment that would be going in and out of that site because there's no statement of operations. It's three sentences. The traffic report did not talk about how long it takes for them to get on the road. And that turn was on a right turn, and he started at 45 degrees. Next slide, please. Now, the total trips in the traffic report is contrary to what my traffic engineer has told me. It also did not give a forecast on growth, a 10-year forecast. You're supposed to say, okay, this is what it looks like today, but 10 years from now, this is what the traffic will be. It'll be a lot more. Okay, thank you. Next slide. Now, there was no basis or data that would show that it would only be one truck a day. None. Because we don't have a statement of operations. We had a potential renter say that they think it's going to be one truck a day. Next slide, please. Now, the problem is also if you make this an industrial site, it gets sold, the next guy could be really bad news. Next slide. All right, now, the site does not have any environmental impact study, which requires when adjacent to the conservation overlay zone and the wetlands. And, you know, they really didn't provide, which I object, a lot of these applicants do, they don't provide an aerial, so they just provide a really close-up of the site. They don't show you all the houses around it. And I showed you what I took from Google Aerial, and you saw there's, I don't know, 20, 30 homes. So we don't know. Okay. There are, yeah, okay. Next, please. I want to talk about the planner, okay? The planner based all her testimony on a contrived conservation easement line on the map, which is not approved. We have no clue what the LOI will look like because this is a different use. We have no clue how much of a buffer it is. None. There was some data from 15, 20 years ago, but everything has changed. All the standards have changed. So how can you say there's 2.7 acres of buildable property when you don't even know where the buffers end, start or end? You don't even know that. Also, the EIS could also restrict the buildable area. And the fact that there's going to be diesel fuel emissions, that might affect the wildlife. But we don't know because basically nothing has been done in this regard. And we're like, what, a year and a half into the application. Next. This is going to be a 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. industrial construction yard. And you've got 30 or 40 homes on both sides of the road that are going to have to live with that. We don't even know what the construction equipment's going to be there. Once you open this box, you don't know what's going to happen to that site. They might want to share the site with another contractor. And I want to say, no amount of conditioning, no amount of conditions is going to wipe away anything here. It's not going to, you can, all the negatives, we can wipe the negatives away with conditions. You can't do that. You can't, the noise and the air pollution. We already saw that the applicant or whoever was parking construction and excavation equipment there for a year illegally. If I hadn't wrote a letter, it would still be there. Okay, the testimony upon the traffic engineer, planner constitute a net opinion and should be given no weight. They have failed to provide why and wherefore for their key conclusions. For example, the traffic engineer provides no factual basis for assuming only one truck a day. No analysis of the radius of the 60-foot trailers, and no list of equipment types. The planners claim that there are no adverse effects is an unsupported conclusion that ignores documented impacts on neighbors, property values, and environment. Without factual and reliable methodology, their opinions are mere speculation and do not meet the legal standard for competent evidence. The applicant's planner must show that the proposed use is particularly suited to the subject property. And we don't, how can they do that when we don't even know where the wetlands are? How can we do that? The planner does not indicate how these characteristics make the outdoor contractor storage particularly suited for this specifics of this property. Such a proof of a particular suitability required by the Medici decision, which applies to private uses that are not permitted in the zone. The planner admits that the truck storage and maintenance use is a second principle that is not permitted in the zone. The applicant has the burden of proof. Failure to satisfy that burden warrants the application be denied. Next, please. These are some of the runoffs of my calculation. I'm not an expert, but I want to tell you that the planner said, oh, there'll be no toxic air. I don't think the planner's ever been to a garage with a 50-gallon barrel of oil, all right? Or what they do. He says that every repair is going to be inside the garage. Now, you can't condition that because I'm not going to be there every day saying, hey, you got to get that truck, into the garage. Now, you're not going to condition that away. Also, she didn't, she said there'd be no, these diesel trucks, they put out a hell of a fume. And if you're a neighbor, do you want to be breathing that? Also, when there is like oil on the ground, because trucks do leak oil, and there is a runoff, it'll go into a detention pond, which goes into the Matiti-Conk tributary and the wetlands. But we don't have any information on that. And then you don't have any information on that, which is why you must say no to this application, because you don't have enough information. Okay. Now, if you want to bifurcate it, that means separate them, approve the variance but not the preliminary fans. You can't do that. It's all intertwined. Now, the planner stated that there was no neighbors, and luckily for me, one of the neighbors was at the meeting. I think, Moshe, you probably remember that. And he goes, I'm here. And he goes, I am a neighbor. So her testimony in saying that there was no neighbors was false and not factual. You're going to see there's been a trend of testimony that was not factual. Okay, can we, all right, can you, next, please? Okay, next. All right, I think I covered this. Next. Okay, this is the copy of the statement of operations. It's a letter with 2 paragraphs. Now, how can you have that on a major industrial? How can you have that on a major industrial site plan? Is that what you're going to base your approval on? Next, please. Now, what is this here? Okay, we've had about 10 neighbors come in over the year period. They all said that the noise and vibration would reduce their quality of life. They were concerned about diesel trucks emissions in their neighborhood or in their area. They were concerned about traffic safety concerns, and that frequent heavy trucks would lead to faster deterioration of local roads. I just want to put in the record that I'm not the only one saying this. There are other neighbors saying it. Next, please. All other negatives are the aesthetic impact, which is going to be horrible, and the property values. They're all. We went to a real estate person who's expert for 20 years. He couldn't be here personally. He gave us a letter. He goes, Paul, if that thing goes into your next to you, your property is worth half the value. And the guy across the street also was very concerned.
Mr. Revere, I'm going to ask you, you can't relay to us, to the board, what other people have told you, okay? So if you could just stick to your own personal
that?
impressions. Yeah,
All right.
thank you.
Okay, I spoke with a real estate expert, and I was advised.
All right,
that-
well, you can't tell us what he advised you, because he's not here.
Okay. Well, anybody with a little common sense knows that if you have an industrial use next to your property, any residential property, it's going to hurt the value. And like I said before, industrial zoning is creeping, because the next guy next to him also will want a repair garage or something like that. Next, please. And those are the negative. Next, please. This is the letter I've received.
Right, and we can't consider that.
Okay,
because
well,
he's
then
not
don't
here.
consider
So if we
it,
could just
okay?
move on to the next slide.
Well, don't consider it. I received this letter. I had somebody come to my house, and
Right, but in
Okay.
order for the board to consider that, this person would need to be here.
all
And be
right.
sworn and testify and
Well,
be
then
subject
I
to
guess I'll ask the
cross-examination.
board to just use their common sense.
Right.
All right, so I'm getting to the summary. I appreciate everybody's time, and I appreciate your accommodation. Next, please. There was for your benefit, this is for your benefit, Dr. Hofstein. You were talking about how I had to get a variance to build my home. Well, I just wanted to give you the background. That home, there was a home there since 1940. And it was a mobile home. I bought it, and I tried to tear it down, but Mr. McGill stopped me. And I had to go through the whole process. It took me 4 years to get my NJDEP approvals. Okay, 4 years. And I got them. So when the town rezones a whole area from residential to highway commercial, there should be some consideration to the people already living there and have been living there for 40 years. And I was very disappointed that when the township and the applicant were having these meetings that was making plans for my property, they didn't invite me. I know you have encouraged the applicant to talk with the neighbors. I've seen that before, and it's a very good practice. It can avoid a lot of problems, but the applicant refused to do that. Next, please. Okay, this is my summary. First of all, the board authority to impose conditions is not a cure-all. The applicant might suggest that conditions may mitigate all problems. The board's it does have power to impose conditions. My argument is that the harms are so fundamental, they cannot be conditioned away. While the board, you cannot condition away the fundamental incompatibility of industrial in a residential commercial area. You cannot condition away the permanent devaluation of neighboring homes. You cannot condition away the inherent environmental threat to wetlands when the applicant hasn't provided the basic NJDEP permits required by law. Some problems are so inherent that the only responsible remedy is to deny the application. So my summary is that the jurisdictional defect, the application was illegally deemed complete. It is complete. There was no statement of operations, and there was not even an application to New Jersey DEP. But they came in here and they told you how they did it. Oh, we got this. Failure on positive criteria. There's no inherently beneficial use for a truck repair place that's going to benefit Jackson, the people of Jackson, its master plan. The failure of negative criteria. Substantial detriment proven via property values, traffic, and environment homes. I showed you the problem with the truck leaving the site, and that was at 45 degrees. The applicant has not met their burden of proof. Denial is the only legally defensible outcome. This is to remind you that Jackson Township Code, which is Mr. McGuckin, wrote a letter to one applicant enforcing you can't be deemed complete unless you give us the, because you're in a conservation zone overlay. I have the letter. You can't be deemed complete if you don't have what this law says. The applicant has no LOI, wetlands linears, and has nothing. The board lacks jurisdiction to hear of substantial review. Hearing it now is a legal error. The failure of the positive criteria. There was no positive criteria. I think the planner said, well, we're not gonna develop the wetlands. The wetlands can't be developed. Under NJSA 4055D 70D, the applicant must prove special reasons by showing the use promotes the general welfare and serves the purposes of zoning per NJSA 40:55D-2. There is no inherently beneficial use for a for-profit industrial yard, no essential public service, and deserves no leniency. The use directly undermines the MUL core by damaging the environment. We have very sensitive, that's why it's in a conservation zone overlay. We have a very sensitive land with a tributary, and they're telling us that a truck repair facility is good for that. That is a good place to put it. It's going to have an undesirable visual environment on your town and especially my area. And it's destroying the character of a normal highway commercial and adjacent R2 residential neighborhood. If there's any hardship, it's a self-created hardship. Ave Partners bought this knowing it was highway commercial, knowing that there was very limited property to build on. I demonstrated that a 60-foot tractor trailer cannot access a 32-foot road, and if it does, it creates a severe public safety hazard. There's noise, drones, pollution, and environmental harm. There was also, as I showed you, there was defective public notice. Each one of these public notices in a conservation zone overlay requires that it state that the site is in a conservation zone overlay. And the statement of operation is just a few vague sentences. I would ask you to carefully review Mr. Peters' letter. He up front told you there was no LOI. He up front told you that it was required by the law to be deemed complete, and it was ignored. Apparently, Mr. Evan had a higher influence on this board.
Excuse me, I don't mean to interrupt you and be rude, but for the record, the board does not deem it complete. Township officials deem it complete. I just want to make sure that's clear for the record.
Okay, okay. Well, he didn't serve you right because he said in his technical evaluation that there was no LOI, but we could use a defunct conservation easement. And then about halfway through the year, he told you he was wrong. He said, oh, I made a mistake. All these permits are expired. And that's in the record too. So with that, I'm a little upset. I don't mean to come across as an old grouchy guy, but I'm living next to here, and I had to hear this testimony. I saw them dumping fill dirt on the thing and parking the excavation trucks, So, and I had to hear this testimony, and it was very frustrating. And I didn't have a really chance to speak until today. I just want to let you all know it's very stressful. And I got two intimidating emails, disrespectful and intimidating emails from the last zoning board attorney. And here I am trying to present my case, and I'm getting almost threatening emails from him. All right, so with that, can I ask if there's any questions?
We'll open it up to the board members and also the professionals for any comments.
I'm
you're
sorry,
done,
what'd she
are
say?
you-
Oh, do you want the email saying there's nothing? No,
No.
no,
No, thank
All
you.
right,
Can't review that.
Sorry.
No, I'm sorry. No, thank you.
all right, well, so are there any questions?
We'll open that up,
You
sir.
can, yeah.
Oh, what'd you say? Okay, all right, well, thank you for your time and attention. And
Thank you.
I sincerely hope you listen to everything I'm saying. This applicant does not deserve a yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr.
Madam
Weiler.
Chair? Sure. I think most of the comments raised had been previously questioned and answered by the applicant's professionals. As it relates to wetlands, they did agree as a condition of approval, they would provide a valid LOI. They did at some point amend the application to be both a use variance and preliminary approval, rather than use variance, preliminary and final. As it relates to traffic, there's been multiple at-length conversations how the driveway is under the jurisdiction of the Ocean County Planning Board. As it relates to noise, they did speak at I believe, the prior hearing that they would meet all standards with respect to noise levels at the residential property lines, and they're regulated by the time. I'm sure Mr. Pape in his closing will comment on many of these. But like I said, I think many of these issues were previously raised and addressed, so I have nothing further at this time.
Mr. Peters?
Mr. Wilder covered most of it. I have no comments or questions regarding Mr. Revere's testimony this evening.
Okay. All right. Board members, questions, comments? Okay. Seeing that we have no questions here first, the board members would like to wait until we hear from the public. So anybody wishing to come forward at this time, please do so. I just want to remind you, as you can hear, the acoustics in here are terrible, so just speak clearly into the microphone for me. Thank you.
Motion to open.
Good evening.
A motion to open to the public. We don't want to do a motion.
Well, I think, open to the public now.
Yes,
And
mhm.
then we close, and then Mr. Pate, you don't have to have further comment because he's just doing it. Oh, all right.
Sorry.
Okay, no, that's fine. Go ahead.
This is on?
Oh, yes. Please raise your hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give before this board is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I affirm.
Just please state your name and address for the record.
Name is Preet Pals, P-A-L-S, Solomon Court, Jackson.
Thank you.
I'm testifying here in this evening neither in support of nor opposition to this application. I absolutely believe that every property owner has the right to develop or use their property as long as it complies with applicable ordinances. And every applicant has every right to submit an application that complies with any pertinent ordinances also. So I think I'm late to the story because everybody else is. I don't need to ask questions of the professionals, but were there any waivers requested with this application?
Mr. Peters?
Chair, out of an abundance of caution, I think the applicant should answer the question. If you want me to do it, I'm happy to, but it sounds like I'm testifying for the applicant.
Is it appropriate for Mr. Pate?
Okay,
Yes, it is. Mr. Pate?
Mr. Pate, would you like to respond to that? I would agree with you, Mr. Peters.
Good evening, Madam Chair and members of the board. Kenneth Pape of the firm Heilman Pape. Kenneth Pape of the firm Heilman Pape on behalf of the applicant. There was no waiver relief that was requested of the board. There was limited variance relief that was requested, and that variance relief, most of it was withdrawn. When we do our summation, I'll point out that there's some sign variance relief that continues that the applicant is requesting.
Thank you very much. So no waivers have been requested.
There were no submission waivers that were
Right,
requested.
submit, thank you very much. So from 244-6, we have some definitions. Certificate of completeness, which is a certificate issued by the board after all required submissions have been made in proper form, certifying that an application for development is complete. Then 244-6 definitions, complete application, an application for development which complies in all respects with the appropriate submission requirements set forth in this chapter. So, the planning board, when these guys submit something, it goes to our engineers, they review it to see if everything's kosher, good, and then they, if there's problems, they back and forth until they arrive at a complete application. So I reviewed this application, and I looked, and I looked, and I looked, and there's no plat which shows all structures within 200 feet of the proposed development, and that is 244-30.B12, which reads, plat requirements, all existing structures on the site and within 200 feet thereof, including their use, indicating those to be destroyed or removed and those to remain. So that is missing. And by my understanding, if something is missing, it's not a complete application. So I also looked, there are two reports from Remington and Varick. One is 6/11/24 and one is 8/26/24. Now, since the applicant did not include that information, I would expect to see that the township would pick up on that and tell them, hey, 244-30.B12 requires this. Well, those reports that I referenced by Mr. Peters make no mention of this whatsoever.
Madam Chair, if I might? I serve the board as the planner. I don't do the completeness reviews for the board. That's the reason the information isn't in there. It doesn't get reviewed twice by both professionals. It gets reviewed by one. Our office doesn't write a report until the board engineer's report deems it complete, and then our office does our planning review. So that's the reason, sir, you don't see the information
Understood.
in the RVE reports, respectfully.
Understood. Okay, so then what I would surmise at this point is since it never ended up in the applicant's package, someone didn't tell him about it. It doesn't matter if it's Mr. Peters. I also looked, there was another report from G, it said G something, another firm. It wasn't in there also. So suffice to say, this application is not complete because it is lacking the information required in 244-30.B12. It's as simple as that. So you live by the ordinance and you die by the ordinance. And I also looked in the file and I did not see a certificate of completeness. And I was told once by the people in that office that, oh, we don't even do that. It's required to be done. So at this juncture, the incontrovertible fact is that this application does not include all the appropriate submission requirements set forth in the chapter and is therefore, by definition, not a complete application. Consequently, as the application in its current state is incomplete, the applicant has no standing before the board. The applicant must be required to revise the application to a form which complies in all respects with the appropriate submission requirements set forth in this chapter before they can even appear for consideration. And I'd like to also, now I was discussing with my friends and they're like, well, some stuff might be minor, small things, whatever. Well, if it's minor and small things, it wouldn't be part of the ordinance because the ordinance says what needs to be there. Now, in my estimation, this requirement of having all structures within 200 feet of the proposed project is the most important document that you can provide to citizens like myself. Because this way, I can see exactly where my house is in relation to where the project is. And let's say there's a lighting issue. I can say, oh, here's my house, here's my pool. Oh, here's the proposed development, and there's a light right there. So now I can get in front of the board and I can say, yo, right? Without that document, you can't do this. And it's a severe disservice to the public. And now you know where I'm going with this. My one last thing would be, as I used to work for the state, I used to do stuff like this, and it was a lot more technically complex than what we're talking about. So the requirement under 244-30.B5, the names and addresses of, this is what's required under plat, the names and addresses of all owners and property lines of parcels within 200 feet of the land to be subdivided, including the properties across the street, as shown on the most recent records of the Township of Jackson, or the municipality where the last sentence says, and it will also include, the list of property owners shall also indicate the use of parcels within 200 feet. Look at the cover page on that document you're holding, and you'll see on the upper left, there's a list of lots and blocks, people's names. However, it does not include the use of those parcels. So just by that little thing, it's incomplete. No, I don't feel, no, look, go right on ahead. So that's where we are. The applicant has submitted an incomplete application. The township has not corrected them. And now, I don't know if a certificate of completeness was issued because it couldn't be issued because it's not complete. And here we are, waiting to be voting on this, and it's an incomplete application which the board has no right to vote on. And I know I can't bring up other times when this happened, but it happened to me 3 years ago. And that prevented me from being able to look at the project and assess it in relation to the realities of my property.
First of all, let me apologize for the crinkling paper while you were speaking.
No.
I have the preliminary and for the map that they provided to us. There is a list of all the owners. As you stated, it does not state what the purpose, what is done on those properties. Ms. LeBou?
Yeah, it indicates the use of the property.
Right, the attorney's going to address that.
Right, I'm just looking at this right now.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I don't think that matters. I mean, I do see where it says that in the code. It says the names and addresses of all owners and property lines within 200 feet. I would say that at this time, regardless of whether or not there was strict compliance, there is a list of property owners on there. The properties are listed. The zone is listed. The application was deemed complete. And if the township, the zoning board were to say at this time that it's not complete, I think we would end up in court with Mr. Pape very quickly because they've been going through a year of hearings, and this is not a basis by which to deny the application. It's been deemed complete. Whether or not there was strict adherence to all of the requirements in the code is something that needs to be addressed in the review of applications going forward, definitely.
But by definition, how can you say that it's complete, where the definition of complete application is an application for development which complies in all respects with the appropriate submission requirements set forth in this chapter?
I'm not saying that it's complete. I'm saying that the application was deemed complete more than a year ago.
Okay.
And to say now, at this time that we're here and the application is done and all of the hearings have been had, to now say, well, it's not complete, it would be a problem.
Okay, fair enough. But so then you really, the whole process was a disservice to the residents because they did not include the required 200-foot.
Right, but all of those property owners had notice of the hearings.
Sure, they're noticed, but it also says that you're going to provide a drawing that shows where these structures are. This is very suspect, because an argument could be made that this is occurring so you don't get comments from the residents. Because most people, or a lot of people, cannot look at a two-dimensional piece of paper and make those determinations. They could look and stand there and say, here's my house, there's the building. Oh, now I can get an idea.
Can I ask you a question, sir?
Sure, of course.
I'm a resident in this town.
So,
As you can well imagine, that's why I'm sitting on the board.
Yes.
If I received a notice indicating that my neighbor wanted to do A, B, or C, that in itself should say I need to be concerned or informed. Wouldn't you agree?
Of course, and since I'm concerned and I want to be informed, I would come here and say, oh, the ordinance in the township states that they have to include this information. So I'm concerned, I'm interested, but I don't have the tool to make my determination because it hasn't been complied with the ordinance. And so you think about the people that live, and again, I am not here in support of nor in opposition to the current at all. My problem is with this procedural things that are going on here, which, I mean, if you think about it from the way I'm explaining it, that it's a tool, and the municipal land use law, they want to have the public able to also engage in the whole process. And by what's happening here, the public has been excluded from being able to do that in a meaningful review. And
I
think
disagree. The public did get notice. The public, I mean, if your house is next door, you know how far away your house is from what's going to be happening on this lot. That requirement
That's only
is-
distance. How
I'm sorry,
about-
I'm speaking. That requirement is for the board members to be informed on the application. And if they had questions about distance between the current use and adjacent structures, they would ask the applicant.
So then, would you agree then that perhaps this requirement, 24430.B12, is not even required? Why is it in the ordinance if it's nothing that really has to be done?
It's in the ordinance, it's required, and from now on, it's going, I can attest to the fact that the professionals who are listening right now are going to make sure that that's something that is provided with each application. But what I'm saying is that we can't now deny this application on the basis of something that was not given to them over a year ago. The application has been deemed complete, and that
Understood.
information would have been good to have for the public and for the board, but for some reason it wasn't, if it wasn't supplied, it wasn't supplied. I haven't seen the complete application. I don't know that it wasn't in there. I don't know that it wasn't reviewed, but you're saying that is not there. I will take you at your word. We
Look
can't
at the
now deny this application on that basis.
Understood, but if you look at the drawings that you were just looking at, you'll see that it doesn't exist. So I'm prepared to come to every meeting when I look at the plans. If it's not in there, you're going to hear the same thing over and over, because it is so important to the people to be able to make educated opinions and come to conclusions. I mean, just because you know it's 30 feet away, there's orientations. And it's a lot easier when you can see exactly where your house is. And again, I would say, why is it in the ordinance?
Right. And you've said that. Thank you.
I did. Thank you very much for your time.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth in this matter before the board?
Yes, I do.
Your name and address for the record?
My name is Adam Heidi. I live at 70 Rubina Court, and just for the record, Adam Heidi, H-A-I-D-I. And I live at 70 Rubina Court, and just for the record, I am on the Township Environmental Commission, but I'm just here as a concerned resident. I'm not too familiar with the project, actually, but I just have a couple concerns. If the applicant is seeking a use variance, but the site is within wetlands where an LOI would be required, how can the board ethically?
I'm sorry, forgive me. You said if it's in the wetlands, and then it kind of went off for me. I couldn't hear the
Yeah, so if the site truly has, if the site is within proximity of wetlands where an LOI would be needed for the application, how would the board really know where anything can happen on this property, let alone sign variance? Just doesn't matter what variance it is. We don't quite know where we can do anything on the property yet if there's no LOI issued. I also have just concerns if the applicant and anyone on the team developed any part of the plan on this fictitious LOI. That it's to my understanding that Paul said there was no LOI, right? Is there an LOI from the DEP?
I'm sorry, you're speaking to the board now, so
I
address the
apologize.
board and just comments, you're not here to question them. You can just state your comments
I
about the
apologize.
application.
What's your name, Miss?
My name is Robin LeBeau.
LeBeau? Okay. I apologize, Miss
It's
LeBeau.
okay.
Yeah, so if there is no LOI, the board shouldn't be granting any use variances. I mean, if you look at the PowerPoint, why are there so many construction vehicles at this site if nothing's been approved?
I don't know if you heard.
I could hear you.
I don't know if you heard at the beginning, those are samples of large equipment. That's not what was on the site.
Okay,
He
but
showed
did,
a picture of a vehicle that was leaving, but those themselves were not what was on the site. He did show pictures of others,
he showed the
but those
video,
were not
right?
all
I did
on the
see
site.
that. I did see that. But did he also testify that wetlands were being filled in?
Again, you can make comments, you're not questioning the board right now. So we're not going to reiterate anyone's testimony.
My apologies. Let me
Just
rephrase
state your
that.
comments.
I think Paul had testified that he witnessed wetlands being filled in, which is a very severe violation of not only our local law, but state law and federal law. It's actually punishable up to $25,000 per day that the violation takes place and is not remediated. I encourage the board to look into laws outside of our own municipality. I think my last point is really, I'm just kind of concerned, Ms. LeBou in particular. I just heard you like 5 minutes ago say, you arguably admitted that the application, you recognize the application's not complete, but being that other agencies, maybe the planning board deemed it complete, you feel you don't have the authority to stop it in its tracks. I think that's
That's
I
not
think
what I
it's in your
said.
ethical integrity.
That's not
Maybe
what I
not
said.
yours, but can you please, would you like a second chance to elaborate on what you said?
I didn't say, I said that that's a requirement, but the application has been deemed complete. I have not reviewed everything
Did
that
you,
was
I think
submitted.
you used the words from now on. I'm sorry about
The application
that.
has been deemed complete, and it is my legal opinion that if the board were to say it's not complete, a year after deeming it complete, then we would be in court and we would not be victorious on that. Mr. Pape would make sure of that. The application has been deemed complete, and the applicant is entitled to rely on that. And now that these requirements have been highlighted for the board's professionals, I'm sure that attention will be paid to them for future applications. But we cannot deny this application on that basis.
I apologize for interrupting you.
It's okay.
I didn't mean to. I don't necessarily agree with what you said. I feel like it's in your ethical integrity, one as an attorney, but one as a municipal board governed by the state of New Jersey, to stop something in its tracks if it made it to you inappropriately, right? We don't climb to the top by cheating. If the applicant cheated and we recognize the applicant cheated, they should be held accountable. They shouldn't be, I'm not saying, I just think no one should explicitly break the rules on record and then be able to move forward to the next step. And if you guys approve something like this, it sets a very bad precedent for the future. Thank you.
Thank you for coming forward. Let me just state, in fairness, I have to respond to the one piece of your comment. In fairness to everyone in the room, it being deemed complete is not an act Mr. Pape created. It was deemed complete by a township official, not by the applicant. So in fairness to him, I think that needs to be stated. I understand what you're saying. Ms. LeBou understands what you're saying. It is a tough position for the applicant to now be in, however, because he was told the application that he submitted was complete. At this point, obviously, Mr. Pre, forgive me, I don't want to butcher your name anymore, has brought something to everybody's attention, right? Again, the board doesn't deem it complete. A township official deems it complete. So that being said, in what Ms. LeBou's trying to say is that we can't take that out on him at this point. How things move forward will obviously definitely change. As she stated, the professionals who are responsible for that will now have, we'll be looking at that in a very different light, okay?
May I respond? Is that okay?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I think I appreciate that response. I think the boards, all of our boards, can do a better job at vetting out the necessary like permits and requirements pertinent to the site plans, the block and lot number. I think I forgot my last point, but thank you for your time.
Madam Chair, can I chime in for a second?
Go right ahead, real quickly.
I understand you don't want to take it out on the applicant. He was told it was deemed complete, but again, if the applicant did anything within that process to, whether it was fictitious, if he elaborated and spoke on things that were never actually true, like a fictitious LOI that was never issued.
Not what's in question as far as completeness, it's
Maybe not the LOI.
It's not the LOI, I just want to be clear. Again, you have to remember, everything's on the record.
Okay.
So I'm not being rude, I don't want anybody to take it that way, I'm just trying to be clear that we need a clean record. So the reason we're talking about completeness has nothing to do with the LOI. We're talking about completeness because according to the MLUL, which Mr. Pre pointed out, not only were the names to be listed of the property owners within 200 feet of the project, which they were, apparently part of that requirement is that it state what they do and what they do with those properties. So that is the question. It's not the LOI. So let's just be clear that LOI is not what it's about the completeness at this point.
All right. I hear you, Ms. Bradley.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, you're gonna have to, if you're gonna come back up, you can come back up.
Madam Chair, can I?
Yeah, oh, hold on one moment.
Can I?
Yeah.
Just kind of make a comment. I appreciate all the residents that are reading the township code. If you look at all the council meetings for the last 2 years, I have spoken numerous times about errors in the township code. I just want to be clear about this code that you are bringing up, okay? And if you look at, you're looking at 244-30B12, correct? Okay. If you go up to the beginning of it, 244-30, okay, it talks about required documents, which is what you're saying. It only lists that these documents must be presented to the planning board, not to the zoning board. So if your issues are with, if you have that issue and you see it at a planning board meeting, I would say you have every right to present it. But this does not include the zoning.
These rules don't apply both to zoning and to planning boards? My understanding is that it's the same requirements, because in the 244, they don't split it out saying this is for the planning board, this is for the zoning board. They are universal, if you would.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. That's my take on it.
No, these are the requirements for a preliminary plat of major site plan. And while it does state the planning board in that section, it would apply to any site plan application.
Now, again, I said I'm late to this. At some other meetings, they open it again for general comments. Is that going to happen tonight? Because otherwise, I'd like to read something. And
No, we're just talking about-
it pertains to documents that have been submitted with respect to this application.
It pertains to this application?
It pertains to documents that have been submitted with this application. So
Right,
I don't, now you can tell me if it's a document that's submitted with relation to this application, is it part of the application?
All right, well,
Is it
right
part-
now, tonight, we're here for the objector's case, so unless it's a comment specifically related to the objector's case that he made tonight, then we're not going to be able to consider anything else. It should have been heard at a prior hearing.
Understood. I
Thank
thank you
you.
very much, and I've learned that. Thanks.
Okay.
Hi, Kim Reale, R-E-A-L-E.
Kim.
Just raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth in this matter before the board?
Yes.
Just please state your name and address for the record.
You have my name? Okay. Last name is R-E-A-L-E. First name's Kim. 547 West Commodore Boulevard. So, I've been going to the planning and zoning board meetings as well. And my issue with all of this at this point is that our planning board is doing final and preliminary and improving them without everything that they need for it to go further in to the next stage. And that's what we're seeing here over and over again with this application as well. I don't understand how you can do a final and a preliminary on one night for some of these things that they're doing at this point. I don't know how you can sit there and when the applicant is telling you, oh no, I need to do this. Oh no, we need to change this. Oh no, we need to do that. And yet, now we're here. Does that make sense to anybody? I don't understand how they're getting it complete to get to here so we can object. I'd like to know how that works because I'm
Right, well,
sitting.
we're just hearing comments right now. We're not
Right.
here to
I
address
understand
the
that, but-
procedures. So if you have a comment about this application, then please go
So,
ahead and.
yeah, I live on that road. I drive on that road. There used to be a lake, the Java Moon Lake. Everybody knows the Java Moon Lake? You built the venture crossings. Guess what happened to the lake? It's gone. Gone. The lake on Diamond Road, they were going to build the learning center. DEP came in and shut them down. Lake's gone. Every time you touch something without doing the proper LOI on a property, you're causing major, major issues to our tributaries, to our wildlife, to the water that we're drinking. Because I'm not on public water, I am on well water. Everybody in my area is on well water. You are causing harm to all of us without doing the proper sequence of events and getting the proper paperwork and legal stuff that needs to be done prior to an application ending up here. It's very frustrating for the residents at this point because we go to the planning board meeting and it's rubber stamped. Oh, you got to approve it. The other night, you got to approve it. That's it, you got to approve it. Even though they didn't have everything they needed, so it's going to end up here being objected again. Why? Why aren't we just getting what we need so that we're not sitting in this position? That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to come forward from the public at this time? Seeing no one come forward, we're going to go ahead and close public session. Question, comments from board members?
Yep, we'll let him close. Did anyone else? Oh, you were going to wait for him to go? Okay, all right. All right.
Mr. Payton, would you like to make your closing statement?
Madam Chair, prior to my closing statement, which I am prepared to make in the next 10 minutes, I would ask if we could take a brief recess. I'd like to have a sidebar with your counsel to go over an issue that was raised. Oh, I'm very sorry. Madam Chair, I am asking if we could have a brief recess. I would like to speak with your attorney before I make my presentation on the record.
Okay. 5 minutes?
All right, we're going to take a 5-minute break.
Thank you. I'll do my very best. Madam Chair, members of the board, good evening all. Kenneth Pape on behalf of the applicant. This hearing is the 9th time that this matter was scheduled by this board to be heard. Those hearings began June 19th in 2024, and at that hearing, we began by asking that the board review our notice and take jurisdiction of the application, and that became part of the record in June. We had a second public hearing in August of that year, but there was no testimony taken, and was carried to September 18th, and there was a substantive presentation on that date. It was then carried to November 20th, at which time Ryan Murphy ruled that the 10-day rule had not been honored and did not allow the applicant to go forward. It was carried to January 15th, and on January 15th, I had COVID, and I apologize to all of you at that time, but I was quite ill. We then went to March 19th and had a third substantive hearing, and it was carried to June 4th for Mr. Revere to make his presentation to the board for reasons that Mr. Revere shared with the board, and the board accepted, and we did too. He did not move forward on June 4th. It was then carried to August 20th, and on August 20th, the board did not convene, did not have. The significance of the board not convening is the applicant was directed to renotice and republish because there was a gap created by the August 4th meeting not taking place. But I wanted to make clear that jurisdiction was established early on the record with an examination of the materials that had been submitted, including the legal notice. The applicant is requesting this board to grant. The application that was filed was for preliminary and final site plan approval with the use variance. The use variance is for a limited portion of the project. The limited portion is the outdoor storage associated with the contractor's yard. During the presentation of the application, the applicant indicated that they would go forward with a request for use variance and preliminary site plan approval and not ask for final until such time as all of the outstanding responsibilities to the board were completed. There was also a request by the applicant and the applicant's professionals to remove and reduce the bulk variance relief that was associated with the application. We're talking about lots 7, 9, and 10 in block 2901. We're talking about 1007 West Commodore Boulevard. We're talking about property that's in the highway commercial zone. In the highway commercial zone, office buildings are a permitted use and contractors' buildings are a permitted use. The ordinance actually reads, a contractor's office, showroom, garage, warehouse, and shop are all permitted, provided that materials and equipment are stored within the building. We are asking for permission to store materials in the yard outside of the building. That is the element of the application that is not strictly in accordance with your ordinance. We're 28.94 acres in size. We have a recorded wetland conservation easement. It has been provided to the board. I have an additional copy with me if anyone would like it. The wetland conservation easement was recorded, and the wetland conservation easement is consistent with the LOI that had been previously granted by the DEP. When Mr. Revere brought to our attention that there was someone at the DEP who wrote to him saying there is no conservation easement, we went to the DEP and we showed them that we have a recorded conservation easement, and we have given that to you. The easement is in place. We do acknowledge that we have a responsibility to return to the DEP. The DEP has advised us that the recording of the easement is not dispositive and that we have a requirement to return to them to have that DEP application renewed, extended, or reinstated. We acknowledge that. But the conservation easement is in place. And the conservation easement that was discussed by all of the professionals is the conservation easement that has been recorded and has been delivered to the DEP. It's also worth noting that during this summer, our client received a notice from the DEP that an anonymous tip had been provided to the DEP stating there is filling of the wetlands. And we were called to the property. My client was called to the property. I went with him, and we met 2 investigators from the DEP. We spent an afternoon on the property with them. They conducted investigations. They measured the property. They measured the conservation easement, and they confirmed in writing, a writing that I then shared with this board, that there was no improper filling of wetlands on the property. That was confirmed this summer in July. So the The DEP is fully aware of the fact that there is a conservation easement, and they came out in responding to that anonymous tip that there was filling taking place. I know that the board members are familiar with the testimony early on about why there was large pieces of equipment on the property. Those pieces of equipment were there to prevent people from entering the property through the dirt driveway because there were people who were depositing garbage on the property. Our client put those pieces of equipment to block the driveway. When it was complained that they shouldn't be there, he removed them. He immediately removed them, but they were never there to be excavation equipment at all. AVE Partners is your applicant, and AVE Partners is owned by the Matos family. You'll recall at the June meeting, Esme Severino, who is a member of that family, she's the daughter of her parents are the principal owners, and she testified that there would be her testimony is 2 or 3 trucks, and she then said tandem-style trucks, and then she said, and other smaller vehicles. This site, she testified, would be for maintenance and repair. When asked what maintenance and repair was, she said, changing tires, changing light bulbs, changing filters and oil, not heavy repairs at all. She testified that the heavy repairs are done at the site where the equipment is located when they break down, and it's not brought here. She also testified that her family owns a large storage yard that they continue to own and operate, and this is not to be a storage yard. This large storage yard was testified to be somewhere in Union County. There was testimony as to what the storage purposes of the storage yard were, and it pointed out that there is an opaque 6-foot-high fence. The applicant indicated that the type of material that would be stored would be concrete structures, and they would never be taller than 6 feet. They said such things as, I think, the head walls and concrete pipe. They specifically stated that there would be no loose material, no aggregate, no gravel, no sand. They pointed out that that material is always delivered to a site and not delivered to their maintenance yard. There was a request of the applicant that the retail portion of the building be reconsidered. The applicant agreed that the building in the front, a 9,000 square foot building, would be solely an office. On the second floor would be the headquarters of the Matos' company, PM Construction. They agreed that the garage structure would always be associated with the contractor's office. The nexus is, we agreed that that nexus would be part of any relief granted by the board, and it could never be severed. We pointed out there'd be no bathroom in the garage, requiring the garage occupants to use the bathroom facilities in the building. The building was designed by Steve Radasti. The building was designed to be with very high quality architecture, a 9,000 square foot building that Mr. Radasti testified that he worked with the landscape architect to enhance the beauty of the building with the landscaping. And he testified that the building was a stucco and stone building and that it was treated on all 4 sides similarly. He testified that the signage that was requested was designed the same way as the building, so the architecture was carried to the sign. And he testified that the rear building would be a compatible building in colors and materials. All of that is intended to demonstrate that this will be an attractive building in a well-landscaped site, not an eyesore. There was testimony that the only repairs and maintenance that would take place would be inside the building, and the applicant repeated that more than once during the presentation. During the hearing, we had a parking lot setback of 19 feet, which Mr. Antilli then modified to 20 feet, removing the variance. During the hearing, there was a 24.6-foot setback for the monument sign, which Mr. Antilli agreed to move to 30 feet, eliminating the variance. During the hearing, the applicant agreed that any facade-mounted signs would conform with all elements of the ordinance. There'll be limited, because there's no retail, there'll be very limited signs on the building. And the building is fully ADA compliant. During the presentation, there was a request from the floor and from the board and the professionals that we revisit the on-site circulation. You may recall that we began with one driveway, and that one driveway was on the side of the property closest to the Reveres. At the request of the board, and after a polling of the board members, we went back to the county planning board. And I don't know where Mr. Revere got his information. We've been in constant contact with the county planning board, and they meet with us when we have questions. Mr. Ray presented written evidence that he'd gone to the county. We provided that to you, I think, 2 hearings ago. And the county had agreed that we could have 2 driveways so we could separate the truck traffic and the car traffic, and the car traffic would be on the side of Revere's property, and the truck entrance would be on the opposite side. And that revision was incorporated into the plan. It resulted in the car and truck traffic being separated, which was something that the board members had asked. The applicant's architect also indicated that he used a certain roof design, a hip roof, that was designed to reduce the appearance of the building's mass and also to screen any rooftop equipment so that it would not be visible from the community. The operations statement that was placed in front of you is not 2 sentences, it's 7 paragraphs. It was reviewed by the applicant. It was the testimony of the applicant, followed the operations statements. There was additional questions from board members and from the public about the operations, all of which were fully answered by the applicant during the hearing. It's worth noting that early on, I think as early as June, comments from the board's engineer indicated that the applicant had addressed his concerns. He indicated that concerns such as drainage, landscaping, and other technical requirements had been addressed by the applicant, and the words that were used by your engineer at that hearing was there were minor items that would need to be cleaned up, and the applicant agreed to do so. The property is zoned highway commercial. It is a commercial zone. It is not an industrial zone. The use that we're asking this board to consider is a commercial use. It's a listed commercial use. The contractor's yard is listed in the highway commercial as a commercial use. The only element of the application that it is at variance with the permitted uses, the only element is the request to store concrete structures behind an opaque fence in the rear of the property. That's the only variance that the applicant is presenting. To suggest that this property is industrial, or to suggest that once a property is industrial, a neighborhood goes industrial, flies in the face, first of the ordinance and also how the board works. Board members, I'll acknowledge that the board members treat each and every case on the facts that are presented, the merits that are presented, and that what happens on one property is not the grounds for another. The testimony of Allison Coffin was very complete testimony. I actually have with me the outline from which she testified. She went through the positive criteria in detail. She went through the negative criteria in detail, and she distinguished the use on this property, pointing out that the use that the applicant was requesting was very similar and a slight variance from that which was permitted by the ordinance. And she also pointed out that the township does not have an ordinance that permits this activity anywhere. And she pointed out that that was one reason why this board could consider the relief favorably. Your applicant took great care to design the project aesthetically attractive, to design the project with a modern stormwater system, to design the project respecting the environmental constraints on the property, and respecting the uses that are in the neighborhood. Those residential uses that are in the highway commercial zone are residential, those are the Reveres actually came to this board and asked for permission to build their single-family home on an undersized lot next to a property that's zoned highway commercial. The balance of the residential community is located in a separate zone and is not, and what we are doing is consistent with the zone and is not contrary to the activities that are taking place there, and certainly not contrary to your master plan or your ordinance's goals. It's respectfully requested of the applicant that the board consider the application favorably. The use variance relief limited to the storage of concrete structures behind a 6-foot fence, the balance of the uses being consistent with the ordinance, and the applicant's continued representation that they'll, prior to final approval, pursue the all outside agency approvals and permits and present them to the board. I thank you for the opportunity to present this summary.
Thank you, Mr. Pape.
Thank you, Mr. Pape. Just to summarize, Mr. Pape did just explain the variance that was being sought by the applicant. The board now has to determine whether or not the applicant is entitled to relief under the D or special reasons variance criteria. You can find special reasons to grant the requested relief where the refusal to allow the project would constitute a hardship, or where the project carries out a purpose of zoning as set forth in the municipal land use law, and the property is particularly suitable for the proposed use. The applicant must also satisfy the negative criteria, which is essentially that the use does not damage the zone plan, doesn't go against the master plan, and doesn't harm the neighborhood. That development is not contrary to the public good. Any motion to approve this application will include all conditions that have been placed on the record in all of the previous hearings. So, you're welcome.
Board, it's up to us for discussion.
Yes, I'll,
Okay, I'll volunteer to go first.
oh, I was gonna say,
Okay.
I'll start if you don't want.
Just try to speak as loudly as possible.
Okay, I hope you hear me. First, I'd like to thank Mr. Revere for his presentation. That was quite good compared to some of the opposition attorneys we have heard previously. I'd also like to say I listened intently to the applicant's professionals, the board professionals, and to the objector. I've also reviewed each meeting on YouTube, read all the transcripts and minutes that were available. Some of my comments are, most importantly, is to mitigate the negative criteria. The applicant has agreed to the following. The driveway traffic was changed, so the driveway nearest the Revere property would be used by cars only. The driveway furthest from the property would be used for trucks. There'll be no toxic materials stored on the site. This includes fuel. The revised circulation on the site will have heavy equipment further from the Revere home. All maintenance to trucks, such as oil change, filter change, tire repair, will be done inside the maintenance building. Any fluids collected from these changes will be collected and disposed of according to the law. The maintenance and storage area will not be separate units, but if there's any change in ownership, they come as one to be used as approved. The outside storage area will consist of, as was stated, concrete work and will be surrounded by a fence and/or plantings. I don't know which one was decided. The sign was moved 20 feet from the right-of-way and have 30-foot setback, which now conforms to the sign ordinance. The address of the building will be illuminated. The buffer between the residential sites will have shrubs and provide an adequate buffer. The applicant has agreed to provide all outside agency approvals as a condition for approval. Now, as far as I could ascertain from the testimony, there is no encroachment on the wetlands or the conservation easements. On this issue, the applicant should provide the up-to-date paperwork from DEP as part of the condition for approval. I would also like a report from the Jackson Environmental Commission, which is now up and running, confirming that there's no negative impact in the area of the site being used by the applicant. And I don't know about an EIS, that would be up to the rest of the members of the board. The 9,000 square foot building will be for office use only, no retail. I think I've gone pretty far on this. And just to state about the traffic, yes, there will be an increase just because there's another business here. Most of the additional traffic will be coming from and to Highway 195 and Route 537 onto a leaving the site. Basically, 2/3 of the traffic will be in that area. Therefore, most of this heavy traffic will be passing through commercial areas except for the Revere residents. And the Reveres know what was coming when they asked for a variance to build a home in a commercial area. Other than that, I'll leave the rest of the board members to add or subtract.
Okay, so first of all, before I go through a whole lot of things. I'm sorry, I'll try and stay right on top of the microphone, we'll bring it close. I just want to let everybody know, I am the newest member on this board. This is my 3rd meeting. I know we have a couple other members that have probably had 1 or 2 meetings more than I have. But I will tell you, for the last 10 days, I have spent watching every YouTube video of these meetings, reading any transcripts that were delivered, and reading any meeting minutes that were provided. So I didn't take this lightly. I want to let everybody know. I did my due diligence. I do have a question for Mr. Peters. So the applicant is saying they are permitted uses under the code, and they said contractor warehouses is one of the permitted uses. I do not see where that is in the code. I see a contractor's office. It says contractor's office, showroom, garage, warehouse, and shop, provided, however, that all materials and equipment are stored within a completely enclosed building. And I assume that's the one that they're using because their use variance is to not store everything indoors.
That's correct.
So what I don't see in this use is the repair shop. Okay? But if I go down further, in conditional uses, it allows a automobile repair shop, and in parentheses, it says motor vehicle repair shop. So reading all of that, are we comfortable that it is truly?
Okay. 2 things. First is the section of the ordinance we're referring to as Chapter 244-57, A as an apple, parentheses 49, where it reads, as a permitted use, contractor's office, showroom, garage, warehouse, and shop. My recollection, without having the transcript in front of me, is that's what Ms. Coffin made reference to. So to the extent that the applicant paints themselves into a corner and says, this is what we're going to do, now our zoning officer has something to enforce. If they use the property in a manner different than the testimony or what's permitted in the ordinance, then they're not in compliance with what they've asked for.
So is the repair shop included in that?
Well, the word shop is in there, correct. And I don't want to put words in Mr. Pape's mouth. In his testimony, he referenced the portions of their testimony about items that aren't specifically listed in our ordinance and how they reconciled that. So I know we're doing deliberations, but if I don't want to speak for Mr. Pape or the applicant. I want to answer your question, but it's their testimony. If he wants to clarify that for you, I think we should let him. But that was my recollection of the testimony, and that's how our ordinance reads currently.
Okay. Would you like to?
The applicant relies on that language, and the word shop is, what we indicated is, it's a shop where there'll be maintenance on vehicles. There would be lifts inside the building, so the vehicles could be repaired and maintained, and we are relying on that word that's in the ordinance, yes.
Okay.
So as commentary, when we think of repair shops, they're not private, they're public. They're for-profit. It's a place where you and I can take our car on a Friday or Saturday and get an oil change. This is for their own use. They're not proffering to the board that they're creating a contractor repair shop to fix Mr. Wilder's company's trucks. It's for their use only. And so, well, again, I don't want to testify for the applicant. I want to explain to you as a board member the differentiation between the conditional use standard of motor vehicle repairs. That's meant to be a business that's open to the general public.
Okay.
Thank you.
Dr. Hofstein listed a whole lot of things which kind of were, some of them were on my list. He had a little bit more detail on his list. The one thing, tonight is only for the use variance and preliminary. We are not approving a final.
That's correct.
That's
The
my
applicant withdrew final from,
So what I would recommend, I won't say it should be done, but I would recommend that before you come back for final, have your documents from the DEP. I know, I understand the way it's worked, that you don't have to have the true LOI, you have to have the application submitted. But as long as you've completed everything to make sure that everything that was approved in the past is either okay or you have applied for the new stuff that's required. Okay. I think that's it for now.
I want to, just one thing. I want to thank Dr. Hofstein and Mr. Selecchia, who have both confirmed for the record that they have reviewed all of the minutes and recordings of all the previous meetings, and if all of the other board members, when you're making your vote, could also say whether or not you've reviewed everything, just we have it for the record, because there have been a number of meetings. Thank you.
Just a couple comments, thank you. First of all, thank you to the applicant and to the objector both for making such cases and presentations. We appreciate it. Thank you to the residents who came out to object and voice their concerns. All of your concerns are taken to heart. We feel where you're coming from. We understand your concerns. Again, this board works with the municipal land use law. There are certain things that we can and cannot take into consideration. A couple of things that were mentioned during this meeting was the devaluation of surrounding properties. In general, this is a highway commercial zone. Anybody that purchases a property bordering this, if they did their due diligence when they purchased their property, would understand that although it is an open area and is beautiful and gorgeous, and we hope nobody will develop it, but we all know that bottom line is if someone does purchase it and it's zoned to be developed, somebody is allowed to develop it. So all these concerns, whether your property may have had you want to call it an inflated value until now, and if you're concerned that it may go down, whether it is or is not true, isn't really relevant. It's unfortunate, that if such an outcome would happen. But again, this is a neighboring property, and this is always the juggle that somebody has when they want to make this purchase to take into consideration. Another thing that the objector has repeated numerous times is that stipulations and conditions cannot be enforced. The objector himself said that there was illegal dumping, possibly, or the placement of the tractors, and he said that he had called code enforcement, and immediately everything was remediated and the trucks were removed. The DEP came down, as the applicant said. So definitely anything which is put into the record, any terms and conditions that are placed, can and will be upheld. Another thing that I would like to address is, I think 99%, or if not 100%, of the objector's concerns were related, as he says, to the trucks, the noise, the vibrations, fuel, traffic. All of these concerns are unrelated to the actual D-variance. As the applicant has said numerous times, the D-variance is going on the outdoor storage. I have not heard one word of testimony from the objector objecting to that specific issue. So while I understand your concerns, and I take your concerns to heart, I feel for you, but all those concerns are appropriate for the highway commercial zone and their permitted use in that zone. That's all my comments, and thank you.
Questions, comments? For the record, Ms. Cusano, I know that you were a newer board member. Ms. Rosal, I believe that there were meetings you both watched, the different videos, read the minutes. Oh, boy. Okay, so for the record, I have been at every meeting, but I too did go back because this has gone on for 17 months. Okay? None of us are perfect and are going to remember everything. And on top of that, I am a nerdy note taker. So I've gone over my own notes. I've watched the YouTube. I've read the minutes again. Because again, 17 months is a long time. All of that being said, I think that everyone who spoke made great points. I just want to touch on a couple of things. Mr. Revere, I thought you did a phenomenal job this evening. Thank you very much. I thought you did a good job reiterating your concerns and helping us understand exactly what it was you were concerned about. Mr. Pape, I thought your closing statement summarized a lot of things, and for some of the newer members, I think that really helped because you helped them to understand exactly what the variance is for, because again, with all the different comments from the public and all the different documents and 17 months worth of time, it's easy to get lost. But ultimately, as Mr. Hyman pointed out, we are governed by the municipal land use law. And that being said, I'm going to point out a couple of things and piggyback off Mr. Hyman. We cannot, despite the fact that we're all residents and don't want our properties to be devalued in any way or anything, we cannot consider real estate values in our decision-making process. Doesn't sound fair. We're not saying it is fair, but as a board that's governed by the municipal land use law, we cannot take that into consideration. One of the other things that struck me with this application is the location. I've been to this location several times over the 17 months, the most recent being Sunday. I will confirm what Mr. Pape said. When the call went to code enforcement, the equipment was moved. I did go out. The equipment was moved at that time. There is a letter from the DEP confirming that they were on site with Mr. Pape and Ms. Severino, that there was no illegal dumping. So for the record, I'd like to make that clear. There was no legal dumping on this site. And also, for the record, there may not be an LOI, but as Mr. Pape pointed out, there is indeed that documentation that the DEP is in possession of. Also, forgive me, ma'am, I'm forgetting your name right now. I'm having a senior moment of my own. You know who I'm talking about. You asked about preliminary and final. As Mr. Selecki pointed out, it is just a preliminary and the use variance. So the variance is specifically for the outdoor storage. It's not going to be any aggregate. It's not going to be any chemicals. It's not going to be anything toxic. It is, according to my notes, some concrete and some piping. All right, hold on one second. In the original, that's okay. In the original, over the course of these 17 months when there was testimony, Ms. Severino did a very good job explaining what exactly was going to be on site. That being said, as it was pointed out, they have a yard up in Union County. The majority of their stuff is stored there. Should they have a project in this area that's done, that is when the equipment may or may not come there. Deliveries get delivered to their work site, okay? The other thing that struck me with this application is the location. I travel this way to work. The truck traffic, Clayton, Earl, up and down West Commodore. So yes, are we adding a truck or two? Absolutely. However, that is a major thoroughfare through Jackson. You come off of 195 and 537, so for me, that's why I felt it was a more suitable location. My concerns for the wetlands were somewhat, I don't want to use the word dim, but lessened, because you have the outlets right there, right? Mr. Revere's property's there, there's a real estate agent, you have the outlets right there, right? There's obviously been a lot of study in that area, and of the, I believe it's 28 acres, and if I misspeak, please correct me, 28 point something acres, they can only develop approximately 2.7 because of the wetland. That's clearly delineated on the easement. I agree with Mr. Seleckia's suggestion, Mr. Pape, when it does come back, if we should approve it this evening, when it does come back for final approval, that I would think for everybody's best interest, based on 17 months of questions and testimony and concern, that the LOI application, we understand, Ms. LeBou, you can correct me if I'm wrong, we understand that you won't have the LOI itself, but you should at least submit the LOI application should it be approved this evening. I have to tell you, to the residents who've come out, I appreciate it. You brought out a lot of different things that maybe some of us who don't live in that area of town, even though we go through it and buy it. But I do believe that given the location, this is a more suitable, and it is a highway commercial area. And again, just to be clear, the other thing I want to make sure I pointed out is that there was a misstatement when it was saying that the area, once somebody gets an industrial use, which is, this is not categorized as, that it will take over that area. That is not true. Each application is indeed judged on its own merit. We cannot make a decision based on things posted online or comments that are not backed up by the testimony. So that being said, each application is based on its own merit, right? So just because, if this is approved, if that does happen, that doesn't mean that everything else is automatically approved. They will have to do everything that's required by them as well. And one last touch on the complete, as Ms. LeBou said, it's obvious that this is going to be something that will go far above our head, because again, we are given the application once it is deemed complete. We do not, I just want to be clear, we do not deem an application complete. We get the information, we hear the testimony, and that is when a decision is made. Thank you. I think I said enough. Yes, Mr. Trimmer?
The one point that Mr. Rivera brought up,
Yes.
any question had it been sold, can we just clarify that if it gets sold, they cannot change the use?
They'd have to come back before the board.
Can we just put
Correct.
on record for their concern?
Absolutely. Any other questions, comments? Okay, so it's up to us if someone would like to make a motion.
In my opinion, the applicant has adequately provided necessary information to grant the D variance for the outside storage. And since there is no substantial detriment to the public good, and there is no substantial impairment of the intent and purpose of the zone plan and zoning ordinance, I would make a motion to approve the application
I would second that motion.
with all,
Oh, sorry, and that would be with all conditions as
with
were
all
stated and
conditions,
agreed to.
containing the negative criteria and everything our professionals deem necessary.
All right, Ms. Kathleen, we have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Mr. Hyman?
Yes.
Ms. Rosal? Mr. Tremor?
Yes.
Ms. Cusano?
Yes.
Mr. Seleckia?
Okay, I'm not going to just say yes or no, I'm going to make a statement. One of the things that I take seriously for when I joined this board, the reason I joined this board was making sure variances were looked at in its entirety and that we just don't rubber stamp variances. And I can tell you, these board members do their work when it comes to the variances. Hopefully, I've done all my work, as I've told you. I've spent the last 10 days reviewing those videos. I reviewed the videos, and then I went back to older meetings because there was some questions as to what was said and what wasn't said. So I do believe I took this serious. For my vote tonight is going to be a yes, because I do not believe that this variance is significant. I do, and please understand, this is step one. They have a long way to go. And if there is something that others deem we missed, it will be caught. But for tonight, my vote is yes.
Dr. Hofstein?
Yes.
Ms. Bradley?
Yes. Excuse me, yes. Mr. Pape, your variance has been granted. Thank you.
If I may, Madam Chair, was that a vote on the D variance and the preliminary site plan as a
Yeah,
single
oh,
vote?
Yes,
It was.
yes.
Madam Chair, members of the board, board professionals, and public, all, thank you and good night.
Thank you.
You make motion, you make a motion to close?
Oh, motion to adjourn?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.